welcome to another session of Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to invite everybody here and welcome everybody here to our broadcast this evening. We appreciate all of you that may be joining us now, and we appreciate all of you being here. I wanted to be coming on earlier, but we had a major storm front come through, and I wanted to make sure we were here and we were able to continue the broadcast without getting knocked off the air by electrical interference. Now, with that said, there's been a lot of speculation about what is going on around our world. I want to address that tonight. Under no circumstances am I going to stick my neck out on the line and not tell you the truth, number one. And on the other hand, I'm also not going to speculate as what is happening. I don't speculate on anything. I want to make that point perfectly clear. I do not speculate on anything or about anything. I just don't do that. Now, what has been going on during the past week? During the past week, starting last Thursday, nearly 1 week ago today, we've had a series, and I'm talking close to 15 X-class flares launched from the sun. 15 X-class flares launched from the sun. Folks, this is historical. This is absolutely historical. I don't know of any time in written history where this has happened before. I want to make that point perfectly clear. We don't believe this has ever happened before. Okay? Now, with that said, with everything happening, I want to make it completely clear what is going on today, tonight, and at least for the next 24 hours. Right now, space weather conditions. We've had an R3 class flare. That is a strong flare. It's not an S. It's not an X. This is an R3 class flare. It is a strong flare. Okay? I want to make that clear. Okay? Again, we've had 15 X-class flares. Most of those flares this past week are X-class 8.6 and greater. Okay? The last solar flare we had, they're now saying and speculating, and I'm not speculating myself, I'm saying scientists are speculating that the last X-class flare was an 8.9. Okay? The last X-class flare may have been as strong as a X9. Okay? Now that might surprise some of you. I was certainly surprised when I read about it this afternoon. That is huge. It is huge. This afternoon at approximately 14:56 UTC, another R3 solar flare launched from the sun. It was a strong flare. Radio blackout was expected and did happen for a great portion of the world. Okay? We could also consider this to be an X 2.9 X-ray flare. Okay? This was from a different region of the sun. An unnumbered sunspot. An unnumbered sunspot. Now, if you remember this past 6 days, we've seen sunspot 3664 on the southwest quadrant of the sun launch all of those X-class flares except for one. The last X-class flare that was launched was from the northeastern quadrant of the sun. Now, we've now seen sunspot 3664 go over to the other side of the sun. Okay? Yesterday it was at the terminator, meaning the edge of the sun. That's where it launched its last flare that was even close to a glancing blow on the Earth. Okay, that's all. It was nothing more than a glancing blow on the Earth. All right? Now, the scientists are still seeing, because we have a satellite on the other side of the sun, and we're still seeing the satellite images from this side of the sun, Earth side facing. Okay? I want to make it clear. Region 3664 remains relentless. Sunspot 3664 continues to hammer out solar flares even as it goes onto the other side of the sun. Okay? Right now, we think that 3664 will reappear on the Earth-facing side of the sun within the next 14 to 15 days. 14 to 15 days. So at this point in time, we have some time to prepare for what could be happening when it comes back. Okay? We have a little bit of time to deal with it. But considering everything else that's going on, it may continue. This may continue. Scientists have now seen what has happened, that the solar flares might also be connected. The solar flares that we have seen might be connected. Okay? Meaning they send messages to each other electrically. They may be sending messages to each other electrically. We don't know for sure. But what we have seen as of late leads us to believe that 3664 and this latest solar flare on the northwestern side of the sun may actually have communicated. They may actually have communicated. And if that's the case, this is a first. We've never seen this before. We have not seen it before. Now, with that said, we're going to be watching, as scientists are also watching, what's going on. Why? Because, folks, this sequence of solar flares is now historical. It's historical. It remains to be seen if we're going to see it again. It is possible. It is possible. Now, we have not seen anything that is coming near to be an off-grid situation. We've not seen any solar activity that would have knocked the grid off. Okay? Scientists have speculated for a long time now that an X7 or an X8 could be something that could have knocked the grid down. It hasn't happened. That last solar flare coming from the northwest side, the northwest quadrant of the sun, Earth facing, was possibly an X9. So if an X9 doesn't knock our grid down, what does? I'm not going to speculate, but I also want to make sure that you're aware of what's going on. Okay? Everyone needs to be aware of what's happening. Please be aware. Don't speculate. Don't speculate. Eventually, Mike just gave us another $10 super chat. I really do appreciate that so much. That helps keep the lights on, helps keep the internet coming here. By the way, we're working on this computer to get it working so we don't have to use our tablet any longer. But for now, I'm going to use a tablet. Fortunately, we have the tablet here. Adventuring Mike, thank you so much and God bless you for that super chat. I also gave you an EMA sticker for it. Thank you so much for that. God bless you. Now, with that other sunspot, 3664, it's remaining very active. What's going to happen when it comes around the other side, we don't know. But the scientists are going to be monitoring it as it moves across the other side of the sun. We should have a good idea of what's going to happen as we get closer to having it come around to this side of the Earth again. I want to make it clear. Right now, we do not have anything really to be worried about. Okay? I've seen a lot of people that have asked a lot of questions, and those questions are valid. There are no bad questions. There are no wrong questions. I want to make that clear. Don't ever be afraid of asking a question. Catherine Payen says, do they have a satellite on the backside? Yes. Yes, they do. And they're watching it. Okay? We don't know what's going to happen when this sunspot rotates back to this side of the Earth. We'll see. We'll see. What space weather impacts are possible now? Space weather is a two-sided coin. Literally. You could flip a coin. Any day. Anything could be different. Anything could be happening. Space weather is a two-sided coin. Depending on what is going on will depend on what's going to happen. Literally. What happens on the sun can affect anything else in the solar system. Anything else in the universe, for that matter. Okay? The sun and its plasma radiation creates beautiful auroras, as we saw this past weekend. Most of us have seen pictures of it. And after I get this computer up to snuff, I'm going to show you pictures of the auroras from this past weekend that I personally have picked up around the internet. They're beautiful. They're absolutely stunning. What can we expect right now? Because of the plasma radiation that has launched from the sun even during the past 72 hours, we are going to continue to see auroras up in the northern latitudes of the world. Mostly this time in Canada, Russia, and Scandinavia. Canada, Russia, and Scandinavia. Alaska may have some limited aurora opportunities, but most of the auroras are going to go over into south central Canada, parts of eastern Canada, and over through northern Russia, and also over into Scandinavia. It's beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful. But we're still seeing a lot of activity on the Earth side of the sun. We're going to be monitoring this, and we'll keep you up to date about what's happening. I promise you, it's important for each of us. Now, we've seen what happens electrically when we have one of these solar flares or coronal mass ejections hit the Earth. We've talked about the satellite communications, the aircraft in the air. We talked about the communications of the space station with Earth, ground stations. We talked about ham radio, police, fire, and medical radio systems. What I want now to talk about is something that we probably have not shed a lot of light on. Some of us have talked about it here in this chat when we've had some of these solar flares. Some of us just talked about it. Some of us have even speculated what's going on. The plasma radiation affects human beings. It affects animals around the globe. It affects us the way we live. It affects our mentalities. It affects how we feel. It affects our bodies. Again, I want to make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on. That while we're not having these X-class flares right today, they probably will continue at some point in time. I want to put this out just as an idea. Each of us needs to be aware of when these things happen so we can protect ourselves. Again, Emergency Management Associates is all about preparedness. We talk about staying inside buildings as much as possible. We talk about staying inside of buildings when the coronal mass ejections are huge and are affecting Earth in a big way. We should protect ourselves. Even then, some of us still experience headaches and mood swings as a result of what's going on. It's a medical fact that the sun affects each one of us, including all of our animals. Since that is the case, we need to be very aware of how these solar flares affect our animals, whether they are indoor house pets or not. We need to do our utmost to help protect them as well. Take heed about it. Think about how you yourself and your family members and your loved ones could help protect the animals in our lives. Okay? Horses, cows, goats, chickens, sheep, rabbits. Each of us have pets. Each of us takes care of animals. These solar flares can have lasting effects on everyone. Zill says, did Ron say night sweats? It could happen, Zill. It could happen. Each of us are made up, and I've said this at least twice or three times in the past week. Each of our bodies, and that includes our pets and other animals, we're all made up of about 80 to 85% water. So when this plasma radiation comes from the sun, what happens? The radiation affects each one of us differently. Yes, it could cause night sweats. It's very possible it could cause night sweats. I'm not a physician. I'm not a physician. Sleeping Volcano is one of my friends and a mod on this channel. She says she stays indoors 24/7. I'm not telling anybody to stay indoors 24/7. But when you're outside, when some of these solar flares are going off, like we've seen in the past week, you need to do things to protect yourselves. That's all I'm saying. protect yourselves. Now, I notice Richard Smith is here in the chat. I originally wanted to have Richard Smith on the air with me yesterday and today. Unfortunately, today, here where I live, where my wife and I live, we've had some horrific, I can't say horrific, we've had some terrible lightning thunderstorms. I did not want to go on the air until those thunderstorms and lightning had cleared the area. Why? Because electronics in your homes or buildings can attract lightning. I don't want to see all of my electronic equipment that we have here in our home go butt up because it was on the air. We were on the air when it happened. I have always waited until, and I've given myself the benefit of a doubt to stay off the air whenever we've had these events. And I will continue to do that. Richard, I apologize for not having you here. I really want to do that within the next day or so. Richard is a good friend of ours. He's a very dear friend of mine. I've gotten to know Richard over the past year or so that he's been here with us. And I dearly appreciate him so much, as I appreciate all of you. Richard, I will try to talk to you tomorrow. Okay? Now, something else that happened today. As I told you on my earlier broadcast this morning, my sweet wife had a dental issue that could have been a lot worse than it was. She did not have to be put out. She had local anesthesia, and it appears to be that she's going to be fine. But I've had to take care of her today. The doctor gave her a prescription for a drug that would have had very serious consequences on my wife. So we opted not to have her take it. We opted to have her take a less dangerous drug, which she did for pain. She's doing pretty good. However, our dear Carol won't be eating steak anytime soon. Okay? I fixed her potatoes. Carol loves mashed potatoes. So I fixed her some potatoes so she could eat something tonight. She's a great lady. I need her as much as she needs me. But I gave her the treatment that she would have given me in the same situation. I love her. I took care of her for a good share of the day. No, I didn't just stay right beside her on the couch, but I've been monitoring her condition. Yes, I've been doing things to prepare for this program tonight. But I was taking care of her, and when it came down to it, I fixed her dinner. So she'd at least have something on her stomach, so when she was taking whatever medication she had to take, that she wouldn't have stomach problems as well. So that's what's going on. Carol seems to be doing fine, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's Carol and I. Now, what else is going on? I first want to take you over to the volcanoes. Frequently, we don't talk enough about volcanoes. We just don't. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what's going on. I want to give you at least a heads up about what's happening around the world when it comes to volcanic activity today. We've had several volcanoes erupting today. Some of them erupting very high. Some of them possibly even have been affected by the solar flares. Yes, solar flares and plasma radiation affects the volcanoes. Over on the northwestern side of the Pacific, just south of the Kamchatka Peninsula, remember we've talked about the Kuril Islands? The Kuril Islands, There is one particular volcano that keeps coming up in the Kuril Islands. It's called Ebuko Volcano. It is just south of the Kamchatka Peninsula. Ebuko Volcano erupted up to 14,000 feet high today. Ebuko Volcano does not always erupt every day. It does not always erupt every month. But when it does erupt, it erupts up high. Today, a 14,000 foot eruption. Flight level 140. Over in Japan, guess what? A volcano over in Japan has erupted today. They say it exploded. It wasn't a huge eruption like we've seen over in Japan. Sakurajima volcano over on Kyushu, Japan, erupted today up to 7,000 feet high. In the past, we've seen Sakurajima erupt up to 24,000 feet high. So a 7,000 foot eruption was very low for all intents and purposes. However, ash from that eruption has now spread to the east. Ash from that eruption is now spread out to the east, over Tokyo and out over the Pacific. We're going to continue to monitor Sakurajima because things could change over in Japan. Further south, over into Indonesia. As you know, we've talked about this before. Mount Ibu volcano over in central Indonesia near Halmahera, Indonesia. Mount Ibu erupted up to 21,000 feet high. This is one of the highest eruptions at Mount Ibu in history. One of the highest eruptions in history at Mount Ibu, Indonesia, Halmahera, Indonesia. 21,000 feet high, flight level 210. Another volcano, Luotolo volcano over in the West Sunda Islands. It had an effusive explosive eruption and it's continuing. Luotolo has been erupting off and on for a long time now. The latest satellite images of the volcano reveals that the viscous gas pour lava began to travel down onto the western slope off the 2020 cinder cone. Yes, Luotolo has erupted quite a bit. But it's the lava that is gas pour is traveling slow down the western slope of the 2020 cinder cone within the caldera. The lava is flowing beyond the western rim of the caldera too. The sluggish pace, viscous lava effusing from the cinder cone itself has been filling the main caldera mostly. But now it's going down the side of the mountain as well. Okay? Now, given the history of Luotolo volcano, there may very well be a new cinder cone that is going to be developing. That also remains to be seen as to how this lava flows and what it does and how it cools. Laura Marie just gave us another $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Laura. God bless you for that. We really, really appreciate that. That means the world to me. Thanks, Laura. Laura is a very dear friend of mine from a long time ago. We go back further than any one of us wants to admit to. But I love her and her husband very much. They're good people. Anyway, thanks again, Laura. We appreciate it. God bless you. Anyway, the latest satellite images of the Luotolo volcano reveals that that lava is now pouring down the side of the volcano. It was previously filling up the caldera area. Remember, the volcanoes sometimes have a rim around the top of the volcano. And there's a caldera where there's a lava floor that had developed before. And when there's an eruption, the new lava coming out of the volcano fills the valley floor of the volcano and raises up to the rim. And in this case, that's what's happening. Okay? Now, the caldera had been constructed by the constant layering of lava flows in the past, probably over the last 10, 12 years. Okay? The current cone is currently at about 400 meters high. The current cone is about 400 meters high. That says a lot. Now, we have other volcanoes also erupting. Besides Luotolo and Mount Ibu, we also have another volcano over in Halmahera, Indonesia. It's called Dukono Volcano. Dukono Volcano has been erupting almost every day for several years now. Dukono Volcano in Halmahera, Indonesia had also erupted up to 7,000 feet high today. Unreal. Unreal. Now there's another volcano I want to give you some time about. Over in Eastern Java, Indonesia. We've talked about this volcano in the past quite frequently. It's called Semeru Volcano. Explosive activity is continuing there. Semeru volcano has been erupting now for several months now, off and on. Today, the explosive activity continued, as I said. The ash and the toxic gases erupted up to 15,000 feet high. Flight level 150. Now, that's not the only eruption happening in Indonesia. There's another eruption over in central Sumatra. East Central Sumatra, actually not East Central, West Central Sumatra. Just east of the coast of Sumatra. East of the west coast of Sumatra. That volcano, Merapi Volcano, M-A-R-A-P-I, has been erupting now for quite some time. Eruptions at Merapi Volcano have been violent. Lava has been pouring down the side of the mountain for quite some time. Earlier last year, I believe it was November last year when it first erupted after being quiet for a long time, Merapi Volcano erupted almost out of nowhere. There have been earthquakes prior to that, and scientists and authorities over in Sumatra have been telling people to stay off the mountain. But that day that it erupted, there were 29 hikers on the side of the volcano. Three of them had to be rescued. One died from an explosive lava rock that was molten, that came flying out of the summit of the volcano and hitting that hiker and killing him. So there's one death from that volcano. They have evacuated the area now up to 9 kilometers around the volcano. They have evacuated around Merapi Volcano up to 9 kilometers away. Residents are not happy about that. Residents are actually protesting because they want to be there for their farms and their animals, because they were not able to evacuate all of their animals when they were evacuated themselves. Okay? Sad. Sad. Now, authorities may allow some of them back at some point in time to pick up an animal here and there if they are still around. Okay? Each case will be handled on an individual basis. But Merapi Volcano has been erupting for a while now. People need to be aware of what's happening. Be situationally aware so when a volcano does erupt, they're not caught unaware. Okay? You need to be aware. We talked about this before. Now, I want to go over to Italy. Okay? Good old Italy. Mount Etna and Stromboli volcanoes over off the southwestern coast of Italy have been erupting off and on for quite a while. They're only spattering right now. Lava is spattering up from the center of those cones, the volcanoes. That's pretty much where it's going to be for a while. Okay? That's where it's probably going to stay. I hope for the people of Italy and Sicily that it stays that way for a while. Now, with that said, before I go over to Mexico and South America, I want to report on what's happening over in Iceland. As I stated last week, Iceland has been erupting for quite a while. As of last Friday, the eruption over at the cinder cone, or what I'd rather call a spatter cone, that was left after a long fissure had opened up, approximately 3.4 meters long. Or not meters. I wish it was that long. It was like 3.4 miles long. Okay? It was a long fissure. Gradually, that fissure lessened down. It got smaller. Then all of a sudden, there were only 3 spatter cones. 3 spatter cones. Volcanic cones that were throwing up lava fountains. Then one of those cones went silent, and the lava hardened. Then the second cone also hardened and stopped erupting. Then for about a month, the last cone erupted, and erupted big time. The lava from that eruption went underneath the lava that had first come out of the volcano, first come out of that cone. It went up and under that lava field. It went under that lava field until it got to Greenavik. It went south and east until it went over to Greenavik. As I said before, Greenavik and the authorities in Iceland had built a great big huge wall around Greenavik and around the Blue Lagoon Spa to the north and west, and the power plant was out there as well. The lava that came out of this last cone, when it kept erupting, went underneath the lava field. It traveled underneath the lava field until it reached Greenavik again. Authorities had built a huge protective wall, what they termed a defensive wall, there around Greenavik. An 80-foot high defensive wall. If lava had traveled over the top of the previous lava field, it would not have reached the top of the new defensive wall. The original defensive wall was only 40 feet high. Now it's 80 feet high. What happened in this case when that new lava tunneled underneath the old lava field? It went underneath that lava field and it made its way through the defensive wall into the area of Greenavik. It did not cause any damage. They were able to stop the lava flow almost immediately. Cafe Piana says a burn. That's exactly right. An 80-foot tall burn. But the lava made it through underneath the bottom of the burn. But the authorities stopped it. Right now, it is highly unlikely that this crater will erupt again. But It's not out of the question that it won't. They don't know. They don't know. Scientists, and I spoke with Professor Thorpelson this past week. Kathy Pires says 80 foot, I thought it was 40 foot. They raised the height of that berm to 80 feet because the lava kept raising up higher and higher. And it reached almost to the 40-foot mark. So they raised the berm higher. Anyway, they may also still increase the height of that wall. It's now uncertain whether it's going to happen or not, again, but they're not taking any chances. Now, over at Svartsengi power plant, they also built a berm around the Svartsengi power plant. They built a berm around the Blue Lagoon spa. Now, the spa, for a time about 2 weeks ago, closed because of the lava flow putting out toxic gases. The sulfur dioxide and the carbon dioxide was being blown by the breezes, or the Atlantic breezes over there in Iceland, being blown over to the Svartsengi power plant and the Blue Lagoon. So they had to close the Svartsengi power plant for a time. But they kept the plant functioning. The Blue Lagoon spa had to close for about 2 weeks. Now it has reopened since the volcano is no longer putting out any lava. Okay? Now, the lava field is still hot, and it's outgassing still. Remember we told you that the lava went up underneath the lava field. It was already there. So that hot lava is still outgassing. So there still is some toxic fumes, sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, coming from that lava field. But it's not like it was. They have reopened the Blue Lagoon spa. But scientists have now said that there is a very likelihood of another eruption. Not from these craters that came alive from this latest eruption of that huge fissure that opened up. Okay? Huge fissure. However, they are still expecting another eruption. Why? Because, folks, the lava reservoir, or not lava reservoir, the magma reservoir underneath the Svartsengi power plant has not risen up any longer. They believe that means the reservoir underneath the Svartsengi power plant has reached its limit. They believe it has reached its limit. Where is that molten magma going? We believe it's going north, following the same magma channels where it last erupted, and even going further north. Scientists believe there is a very high likelihood that we will have a new eruption very soon. They have now put into place a warning system around the Blue Lagoon and the Svartsengi power plant and over in Grindavik, because there are still some people living and working in Grindavik. Not all of the homes have been evacuated. Not all the homes in Grindavik have been evacuated. Some businesses are also operating in Grindavik, but they have a warning system set up. If something happens again, they have a warning system, and they have an evacuation system all lined up to get people out of there. They believe they have maybe an hour to an hour and a half to effect a major evacuation of Grindavik and the Blue Lagoon spa. Okay? All of the earthquake activity is not anywhere near the spa or the Svartsengi power plant. GPS measurements of the Smart Singy power plant have leveled off, meaning that magma reservoir underneath the power plant has stopped rising up. That's why they believe that the magma reservoir has gotten to the point where it's full and it's not going to go up any further. Now, given that idea, okay, I want to make sure you understand what's going on. Okay? We just had a Russian person that put a chat in this chat. You had your chat taken down off the chat. Why? You have to speak English here. You must speak English here. If you want us to recognize what you're doing, you need to speak English. We appreciate you giving us heart emojis. That means the world to us. But in order for us to understand what you're saying, you need to speak English, please. All other chats will be removed. Okay? And our Russian person said, okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. So that's what's going on over in Iceland. Now, Demon Catman also said something else a few minutes ago. He made it very clear what's going on over in the Atlantic. The Atlantic plate, where the Atlantic Ocean is, which includes Iceland, guys, the Atlantic plate, the mid-Atlantic fault going up the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and the Atlantic plate is expanding. The Atlantic fault is expanding, just like this. This is one of the reasons why we've had earthquakes in Iceland. Also, you can't have volcanoes without some kind of subduction. Without some kind of subduction. The Atlantic plate is moving. The Atlantic plate is moving. It's expanding like this. It's pushing Europe and Africa in an eastward direction. It's pushing North America, Canada, the United States, and Mexico in a southwesterly direction. We talked about the earthquakes on the eastern side of the United States and also on the New Madrid Fault. Because the Atlantic plate pushing on the east side of the North American continent, okay, was it causing? Pressure. That's why we're getting the earthquakes on the eastern side of the North American plate. Canada and the United States. And yes, over in Ontario, Canada today there was a 3.2 small earthquake as a direct result of the Atlantic plate pushing and expanding out. Okay, that's what happened. Also today, in case you didn't know it, also today, we had an earthquake in the southern Atlantic. We had an earthquake in the southern Atlantic. It was a good sized earthquake too. A real good sized earthquake. Folks, that earthquake is on the southern mid-Atlantic ridge. It was a large 5.3 earthquake. 5.0, 5.9 are considered to be large earthquakes. USGS and some of the other agencies are calling them, I don't get this, they're calling them moderate earthquakes. They've taken the 4.0, 4.9 from being moderate to light. There is nothing light about a 4.0 to a 4.9 earthquake. There's nothing moderate about a large 5.0, 5.9 earthquake. 5.0 to 5.9 can cause major injuries and death and major destruction. So now they're saying a moderate earthquake can cause major injuries, death, and destruction. They're lying through their frickin' teeth, trying to make everyone believe that, oh, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. It's a downright barefaced lie. Okay? I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again. A Russian friend, I don't know what your name is. I can't read Russian. Says, dear friend, I do not know you, but I really want you to be healthy. I want to be healthy too. Okay. Rochelle is asking, how can we trust anything out of the USGS? We can't. We can't trust them. When they lie about stuff where we are going to have problems with people living because they don't tell the truth, we can't trust them. We can't. We can't. Anyway, let's go back to volcanoes. I've talked about all the major earthquakes that have been happening. Let's go back to volcanoes, because we do have some volcanoes we need to talk about still. Let's go over to southern Mexico, southeast of Mexico City, to Popocatépetl. Okay? Popocatépetl has been erupting for a very long time now. It used to be Popocatépetl would erupt for a time and then die off, and we wouldn't have to worry about it. But guess what? We do now. Popocatépetl today erupted up to 21,000 feet high, 6,400 meters high, flight level 210. Two volcanoes over in Guatemala, Fuego and Santiaguito volcano, have been erupting. Santiaguito not so much, but Fuego volcano has been erupting to a big extent. Over in western Guatemala, explosive volcanic activity continues at Fuego volcano, the mountain of fire. The ash plume from Fuego rose up to 16,000 feet high, 4,900 meters high, flight level 160. Incredible, huh? Absolutely is. The volcano over in southern Colombia has stopped erupting. Nevado del Ruiz in southern Colombia has stopped erupting right now. It remains to be seen what's going to happen there. It goes and comes and comes and goes. I want to go over to Ecuador now. Ecuador is just south of Colombia in South America. Ecuador is a different story. We have two volcanoes in Ecuador, Sangay and Reventador volcano. Now, there has been a lot of cloud activity over in Ecuador. There has been no visual record of Reventador Sangay volcano erupting. However, it has been erupting, both of them. Both of them have been erupting up to 14,000 to 20,000 feet high. We don't have any satellite or visual confirmation of it today, but that's what's been happening there. I'm just giving you a good idea of what's happening. We have two volcanoes over in Peru, Ubinas volcano and Sabancaya volcano. Sabancaya volcano has been erupting for a long time now. It calms down for a little bit, and then it goes back up. Sabancaya volcano had an ash plume today, an explosion that rose up to 25,000 feet high. 25,000 feet high. Unreal. Kathy Payan says she mods on Wages World as well, and I love that. Thank you so much. I thank you for Mark. I thank you for everybody there. I know you are appreciated for what you do on that channel. We appreciate you there. Our Russian friend says, have a good night, my friend. Please come back and visit us. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe to this channel. And when you subscribe also, don't forget to click on that little bell icon. There's a little bell icon right next to the subscription button. You click on that little bell icon and you'll have a drop down menu of 3 items. Click on the word ALL, all. That should get you notified when we come on the air. Just an idea, so all of you know. We come on the air sometime after 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. When we have situations like we've had today, sometimes it's later. As I said, the only reason I didn't come on earlier is because we had an electric storm here. We had lightning over our house and thunder that was blowing our windows off. No, we didn't have any broken glass, but it shook our home. Okay? Anyway, Sabancaya volcano and Ubinas volcano over in southern Peru have both been erupting. There was some cloud cover around Ubinas volcano, and so we don't have confirmation how high that volcano, that ash plume rose today. But Ubinas and Sabancaya volcano have been erupting and are currently erupting. I want to make that clear. Okay? Again, in Iceland, in the Reykjanes Peninsula, the ground uplift persists to the region just north of the Svartsengi power plant. The uplift and the earthquakes are continuing north of the Svartsengi Peninsula, or Svartsengi power plant, I'm sorry. Okay? Right now the Svartsengi power plant is not in any danger, and either is the Blue Lagoon Spa. And by the way, I forgot to tell you when we were talking about the Blue Lagoon Spa, what's happening there. Guess what? The Blue Lagoon Spa has employed a bus driver. They've employed a bus driver and they have him on call 24/7, and they have given him a room at the Blue Lagoon Hotel. He's having a wonderful time. He watches television over in Iceland. Apparently he has a tablet over there and he watches things on the internet. If they had to evacuate the Blue Lagoon and or the Svartsengi power plant, they would call him up, and within literally 15-minute time period, he would be down at the bus and picking up passengers and getting the heck out of Dodge. So they have got an emergency plan there to help evacuate everybody to get them to safety. And that's a great thing. Anyway, that's what's happening over there in Iceland. I wanted to talk about that. Now, I told you about the big earthquakes around the globe. Just because the BS doesn't show us a large number of earthquakes in Indonesia doesn't mean they haven't happened. Just because the American agency does not show earthquakes in the Philippines doesn't mean they haven't happened. Just mean the USGS is not showing any earthquakes in Europe. None. Why not? Why are they hesitating not reporting earthquakes? Because they don't care. They literally don't care, and they're being told by the politicians not to report anything going on. Terrible thing. Terrible. The only other earthquakes they're reporting are over in Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and China. That's the only places where they're recording earthquakes. Afghanistan, a 4.2 earthquake. Tajikistan to the north, they have a 4.5. Over in China, this is really wild. Okay? Xizang, China. Xizang, Xizang, China. This is a very volatile area for earthquakes. They're reporting a 4.2 moderate quake. Why are they not reporting anything in Europe? That's a good question. It's wrong. Right now, they're only reporting 246 earthquakes worldwide. Add another 480 earthquakes to that, and then you might have a real world situation where we know what earthquakes are happening. There are close to 800 earthquakes happening right now worldwide. Unreal. And the USPS shows only 246. What a crock. What a crock. Now, just briefly, I want to go over to Hawaii and the western United States and central United States, because we have had some seismic activity to deal with. Okay? Now, are we worried about what's going on in Hawaii? Some. I do not think we have anything life-changing happening over on the Big Island of Hawaii. Okay? Over on the western side of Hawaii, and this is just south of the, what shall I say, south of the Hualalai volcano. Hualalai volcano is over on the northwestern side of the Big Island. South of there, and I cannot pronounce the name of this town, but it's called Holualoa, Hawaii. There was a 1.7 tremor there. No big deal. No real big deal. USGS is not reporting any earthquakes at Mauna Loa, which is a lie. They're not reporting any earthquakes at Mauna Kea, which is a lie. We have 2.5 to 3.0 earthquakes hitting at Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is a volcano just north of Mauna Loa. Over on the eastern side of the island, it's a different story. Over on the southeastern side of the island, we have a town called Pahala. My dear friend Laura has grandchildren over there going to school in Pahala. Over in southern Pahala, we've had 2.1 earthquakes. 2.1, 2.0, and 1.8 tremors around the town of Pahala. Not a big deal. The minor 2.0 to 2.9 earthquakes hitting, and these are just 2.1, 2.2 minor earthquakes over near Pahala. Those are just minor earthquakes. Most people cannot even feel minor earthquakes or even tremors. North of there, we're still seeing earthquakes happen there. 1.7. 1.7 north of Pahala. Off the coast of the Big Island. Off the coast. We have submarine volcanoes. Submarine volcanoes. Today, near one of those submarine volcanoes, being a volcano underwater, we have a 3.4 earthquake. South of there, also underwater, we have a 2.3. South and east of there, we have a 2.0. Submarine volcanoes. At some point in time, those submarine volcanoes will erupt, and they have erupted in the past. They will add, at some point, they will add land to the landmass of the Big Island. But right now, it's not a big deal. Just so you know, and we've talked about this before, there is a big, huge lava plume way down in the South Pacific between Tonga and South America. There is a lava plume coming up from the center of the Earth. That lava plume is spreading molten magma, or not, it's not a lava plume, it's a magma plume. That magma plume is supplying magma to all the volcanoes worldwide. Over in Hawaii, that magma plume comes over to Pahala. Pahala is like a gas station providing magma to all the volcanoes over on the Big Island. magma tunnels underneath the ground, providing magma to all the volcanoes. That is why we're having earthquakes around Pahala, because the magma is coming from that lava plume down in the South Pacific, and it's coming over to the Big Island. And that magma is going to the volcanoes from there. Now, let's go over to the other volcano we talked a lot about, Kilauea volcano. Today, just south of Kilauea, we have a 1.5 tremor. We have a 1.3 tremor. And southeast of there, we have a 0.9 microquake. How about that? Southeast of there, over into what they call Fern Forest, we also have another 1.9 tremor. Fern Forest was the beginning of, well, let me back up. Back in 2019, there was lava inside the volcano at Kilauea and also to the southeast of Kilauea to Pu'u'o'o volcano. Both volcanoes had active lava in the volcano crater itself. Then all of a sudden, the lava disappeared. All the lava disappeared at Kilauea, and all the lava at Pu'u'o'o disappeared as well. What happened? For days, scientists wondered what happened. What did happen was the magma underneath the ground left those volcanoes, went over into what they call the Hawaiian East Rib Zone, starting over in Fern Forest. Fern Forest is where one of the earthquakes have happened today. Just a 1.9, 2.0 earthquake in Fern Forest area. When those fissures opened up in Fern Forest and Leilani Estates to the north, it had fresh lava pouring out of those fissures, making the lava's way to the coast of the Big Island, adding length and earth acreage to the Big Island. It happened over in Fern Forest. The lava spread out to the shoreline over in Leilani Estates as well. Still today, there are huge lava fields over in Fern Forest and Leilani Estates. When that eruption happened, when those fissures erupted, it burned down 1,500 homes, left thousands of people homeless. They since rectified most of those people that have been homeless because they made tiny homes for them until they made other arrangements to move someplace else or reestablish their homes where they had before. Okay? And the homes that were not destroyed, people were able to move back to those homes. But I saw a video of a lot of the homes being destroyed by the lava floating out over the lava field. It was incredible. It was incredible. Now, off the coast of Leilani Estates today, there is one other earthquake I want to talk about. Okay? This is a 1.8 tremor off of Leilani Estates, off the coast underwater. Okay? That's what happened. That's all what we have to report over in Hawaii. Okay? Incredible. It's incredible. No one knows whether this is going to happen again. No one knows. It could, or maybe it no longer will. That remains to be seen. Okay? Anyway, that's Hawaii. I want to go briefly over to the mainland United States now. There's quite a few earthquakes we want to talk about there. Okay? Now, USGS is not showing any earthquakes in southern Mexico. That's a fallacy. There are about 40 earthquakes in southern Mexico on land and off the coast of southern Mexico. We fully expect to have another large earthquake over near Mexico City. It could happen any day. Now, some of that activity has moved up into northern Mexico, just south of the United States. I spoke about this on Friday. We are still having seismic activity in what they call, or what USGS claims to be, Delta, Mexico. Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. This is the same place where we had a 7.1 earthquake April 3rd, 2010. Easter Sunday, 2010. Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. Okay? We're still seeing activity now, today. A 2.7 earthquake there. A 2.7 earthquake there. North of there, a 1.4 tremor, and just west of there, 1.3. It's incredible that USGS would even think of putting those in the United States, because that seismic activity actually happened south of the border. USGS says it's over in Ocotillo. What a farce. What a farce. Now with all that activity south of the border, guess what's happened? Today, there has been an earthquake swarm. There has been an earthquake swarm near Brawley, California today. We've talked about all of the seismic activity over in the Imperial Valley before. Some people might believe that the only seismic activity that's happening in the Imperial Valley in Southern California is limited to the San Andreas Fault. That is not necessarily the case. The Imperial Valley has quite a few earthquake faults. It's called the Brawley Seismic Zone for a reason. Today in Brawley, okay, we've had a seismic, I can't say explosion, we've had a seismic event here. 1.3 tremors, 1.8 tremors. Those tremors are just north and east of Brawley. 1.4 tremors. 2.2 earthquakes north of Brawley. USGS has them south of Brawley. Sorry, I see the map. I've been in Brawley myself. They have had a small cache of earthquakes. I'm not calling it a swarm, because a swarm, I would say, is between 10 and 30 earthquakes or larger. A larger group of quakes. That would be called a swarm. This is a small cache of quakes in Brawley, California today. Okay? What does that mean? Possibly nothing. But when we've had these minor tremors, it usually has meant there's something larger coming. And for USGS to only include one 2.2 earthquake in this cache, guess what? I think they are hiding data. It's not surprising they've done it before. For us to have just a small amount of tremors, there's something larger that's happened over in that area of Imperial Valley. North of there also, over near the southern side of the Salton Sea, guess what? Over Calipatria, 1.7 and 1.3 tremors. That is all that USGS is saying they are. I'm going to tell you this. I have shown you seismograms from all over the Imperial Valley. When USGS is only reporting tremors, there are actually 2.0 and 3.0 earthquakes all over the Imperial Valley. What they're showing today is a small sampling of what is really happening. USGS is lying through their teeth. Southwest of Salton City. Salton City is a ghost town that was over on the central west side of the Salton Sea. It was a thriving town back in the 50s and early 60s. But all of a sudden, with the advent of agriculture in the Imperial Valley and the leaching of agricultural chemicals into the Salton Sea, a lot of people moved away from the Salton Sea and stopped going there as a recreational place to have fun. So Salton City and Bombay Beach, that were both luxury areas, are no longer there. They're ghost towns. But just southwest of Salton Sea, or Salton City, we have another 1.3 tremor. No big deal. We get tremors all around the Salton Sea every day. Not a big deal. West over in San Diego County, Julian, California, a 1.3 tremor. Northwest of Julian, which is northeast. This one I'm saying is there was a seismic event northeast of Escondido today. Lake Henshaw, a 2.4 minor earthquake near Lake Henshaw, just northeast of Escondido. I used to live in Escondido. I used to go fishing in Lake Henshaw. It was one of my favorite places to go. Another 2.4, 2.3 earthquake there. Something else also over in North San Diego County. Now, USGS is calling this a quarry blast in northeast San Diego County. Folks, I know where this alleged quarry blast is. It's nowhere near a quarry. It's absolutely nowhere near a quarry. It is, however, near Vista, California. I also used to live in Vista, California. Okay? USGS is calling this a quarry. It's not. Okay? It never was. This is a 1.1 tremor over in Vista, California. Vista, California has had tremors before, and they'll have tremors again. But again, there is no quarry around Vista or San Marcos. I want to be firm about that. So again, USGS is lying through their teeth. Plain and simple. That's what they're good at. Now, off the coast of North San Diego County, off the coast of Carlsbad, California, we have a 2.2 minor earthquake there. Folks, this happens to be right next to the Rose Canyon Fault. The Rose Canyon Fault. The Rose Canyon Fault comes out of Los Angeles. It's connected to the Newport-Inglewood Fault. So this 2.2 off the coast of Carlsbad is probably from Los Angeles. Remember last week, Corona, California had numerous quakes there? Upwards of a 4.5 earthquake? That's where this earthquake may have come from. Corona, California. I'm not saying it did, but I'm saying it might have. Okay? Something else. Something else over in Los Angeles area. Actually, over in Orange County. Over in Orange County. There's a place called Home Gardens, Glen Avon, California. Now, why am I talking about it? Because it's important, number one. Before we had the Ridgecrest earthquake, we were seeing earthquakes all over this area. Glen Avon and Home Gardens. Today, again, they're saying there was a quarry blast near Home Gardens, a 1.3 quarry blast. Really? It's a quarter of a mile deep, number one. Yes, quarries can go upwards of 10 miles deep, but they don't usually blow that deep all at once. Folks, this is a tremor. This seismic event they're calling a quarry blast is nowhere near the quarry. The quarry is about 2 miles west of there. This is not a quarry blast, this is a tremor. A quarter of a mile deep. Okay? Incredible. USGS continues to lie and lie through their teeth. North of there, near Ontario, California, San Bernardino County, Ontario, California. They're saying there was a 1.3 tremor in Ontario. This is, folks, this tremor is 1.5 miles deep. 1.5 miles deep over in San Bernardino County in the town of Ontario. Incredible. Folks, this is in the town. This is not in the mountain to the north. This is in the town of Ontario. I have had a lot of time in Ontario. I know exactly where this earthquake hit. Crazy. Earthquakes have hit east of there over into the Anza Gap, going all the way down into the Anza-Borrego Desert over in northeast San Diego County. That area is still getting hit, and it will continue to get hit. Rightfully so. It's not going to stop. It really is not going to stop. Now, we can follow the Santa Andreas Fault out of San Bernardino, out of Los Angeles area, over to the Garlock Fault. The Garlock Fault near Fraser Park, California. We have another 1.5 tremor near what they call Mountain Club, California. The Pine Mountain Club, California. The southwestern side of the Garlock Fault. Okay? We go to the northeast and we have tremors over in Searles Valley and Ridgecrest. 1.2, 1.3 tremors there. All the way north to Coza Volcano. To Coza Volcano. 1.5 tremors over at Coza Volcano. Following the San Andreas Fault north from there. Just southeast of Monterey Bay. Pinnacles, California. Pinnacles, California is on the San Andreas Fault, but there's something else there. What? We have oil and gas pumping operations in the Pinnacles. We have a 1.6 tremor over there. Okay? On the San Andreas Fault. Interesting. Interesting. We go out to the northeast, out near Sacramento, Mariposa, California, a minor 2.5 earthquake there, out in the California Valley. We go north up the San Andreas Fault past San Francisco Bay. Nothing there until we get up to Petrolia, California. There's a 1.8 tremor at Petrolia, California. Over in the geysers area, 100 miles north of San Francisco Bay, we have like 22 earthquakes there. That's normal. Why? Because, folks, the geysers is unique. The geysers is very unique. Why? What's so special about the geysers? Does anybody know why the geysers are so special? Because man has drilled into the upper magma chambers of a volcano to obtain steam from the volcano to power great big huge turbines to generate electricity for 4 energy conglomerates. That's why we're having earthquakes at the geysers. Because seismic energy seeks out those man-made earthquake faults. And guess what? All of a sudden, we have problems. All of a sudden, the seismic energy seeks out those faults and turns them into moving earthquakes. They fracture the seismic energy, fractures the rock at those man-made earthquake faults, and all of a sudden we have earth movement called earthquakes. That's what's going on there. Now, further north over there in Northern California, further north there we have other activity. Okay? We have a 4.0 Maunder earthquake. A 4.0 Maunder earthquake near Blue Lake, California. Why? Folks, over in Blue Lake, California area, there are smaller faults. Smaller ancillary faults in that area. It's also in the area, the area or region of the Cascadia subduction zone. So this 4.0 earthquake there over on land near Blue Lake, California could be related to the Cascadia subduction zone. We're not seeing any other earthquakes except for that one over in Petrolia, California that's linked to the San Andreas Fault, which is a 1.8 tremor. There are no other earthquakes shown in the Cascadia subduction zone today. There are tremors showing at Mount St. Helens. There are tremors showing at Mount Rainier. But again, they are lying through their teeth about that activity. Because there's just not tremors and microquakes at those 2 volcanoes. There are full-blown earthquakes, and USGS is lying about it. One other earthquake I want to tell you about over in the Puget Sound area of Washington. A 1.1 tremor over near Kingston, Washington. 1.1 tremor over at Kingston, Washington, over in the Puget Sound region. Okay? There are a lot more earthquakes than that, but they're not talking about it. They refuse to be honest. They couldn't be honest if they were paid to be honest. And they're not. They just aren't. They don't care. They don't care. It's incredible. I keep talking about it, which I hate talking about because I'm tired of even saying their name. The preeminent seismic agency here in the United States lies about earthquakes. Incredible. Incredible. Anyway, guys, do you have any questions for me? I've talked till you guys are probably tired of hearing me. It's already now 10:40 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and I'm still on the air. Yes, I got on the air later this evening than I wanted to be, but at least I've covered the information that I had for you to let you know what's going on. I thought it was important. I thought it's important because your safety is important. Yes, we've had earthquakes down in Texas. Over in north central Texas, near Hermleigh, Texas. We've had earthquakes here before. A 3.3 near Hermleigh, Texas today. Southwestern Texas is still getting hit with 1.5s, 1.7s, and 2.0 earthquakes over in southwestern Texas as a result of oil and gas fracking operations. Okay? Southern Texas, there's also an earthquake there. What happened? Falls City, Texas. Falls City, Texas, guys. It's a 3.0 small earthquake there. Why? Oil and gas fracking operations, that's why. Rochelle says you did a good job. Thank you for all your hard work. I want to thank all of you for also being here with me, sharing information. That's important. Now, before I get out of here, I want to share something else with you. As you all know, I teach a Sunday school class on Sundays. So I do a great deal of scripture study throughout the week, every day. I put in probably close to an hour and a half every day. I want to go over to Hebrews chapter 2. I want to share 3 verses there. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 6, going through verse 8. But one in certain place testified, saying, What is man, that thou art mindful of him? Or the Son of Man, that thou visitest him? Thou madest him a little lower than the angels. Thou crownest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all subjection under him. He left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him. We're talking about Jesus Christ. This is one of my favorite scriptures. There is a hymn that was written about 200 years ago that is mentioning this very scripture. I sung it in high school, in my high school choir. We're talking about Jesus Christ. He came to this earth. He was God's Son. He was put on this earth a little lower than the angels. He grew in stature. He taught the priests and the Sadducees in the temple. The only time where he disappointed his mother was when he was in the temple teaching the priests and Sadducees in the temple. His mother came to look for him and found him there, teaching the gospel to the people. He was 14 years old. He did real forgiveness, asking his mother for forgiveness for scaring her and his earthly father. Jesus Christ set the example for all of us. It's up to us to study the gospel. It's up to us to become familiar enough with the gospel to develop our own testimonies of Jesus Christ. I was asked not that long ago where I got my testimony. It's not where I got my testimony, it's how I got my testimony. My testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ is a study of the gospel. Yes, I went to church with my parents. My parents also taught me how to pray. My parents read us the scriptures. My parents gave us every way possible to learn more about our Savior. Each one of us had that opportunity. I do have a testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I've been teaching the gospel of Jesus Christ for years now. For years. I love Jesus Christ. He is our Savior, our King, and our Redeemer. He is our all. I would ask each of you to make it a point to find out for yourself who Jesus Christ is and then do something about it. To find out for yourself who Jesus Christ is, and once you do, to take action. To teach others the gospel as well. To teach your family members, your children, maybe even your brothers and sisters. Yes, brothers and sisters, we all can and should learn the gospel. Each one of us can learn the gospel of Jesus Christ. I would ask each of you to do that, to better yourselves, because one day soon, Jesus Christ is going to again visit this earth. And each of us are going to have to answer for what we do here on this earth. Each of us are going to have to answer. It's not just when. It's not just if, but when, and it's going to happen soon. God be with you, brothers and sisters. God be with you. I love Jesus Christ, and I will always teach about him and his gospel. I teach about our Heavenly Father. Folks, we will be back here tonight if something else happens, as soon as the information becomes available, or tomorrow morning. We will be back here tomorrow after 6 p.m., same time, same station here on the Emergency Management Associates, to talk more about earthquakes and everything else going on. Tomorrow is Thursday. More than likely we'll be talking about the Cascadia subduction zone and the Cascadia megathrust earthquake that's going to happen. God be with you. God bless you. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Thank you all for being here. I love you all very much. Thank you for being my family. We will see you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.